This week, tech billionaire Trump supporters started flooding Miami TV with attack ads. The target, Oliver Gilbert. Who's paying and what they're really buying is the part they'd rather you not see. Silicon Valley tech billionaires endorsed Donald Trump, put $12 million into his super PAC, and joined crypto giants Coinbase and Ripple in funding his inauguration. Trump signed their bill into law and personally pocketed over $1 billion from crypto last year alone. They bought Trump's Washington. Now they're shopping for Democrats. Their weapon is Fairshake, a $193 million crypto super PAC funded by Coinbase, Ripple, and the same tech billionaires. In Democratic primaries, it hides behind a friendlier name, Protect Progress. 97% of its money, straight from Fairshake. Here's their playbook. Pick a black Democratic primary and drown it in money. Houston, $6.5 million. Congressman Al Green's 20-year career, over. Chicago, nearly $10 million to stop Juliana Stratton. Illinois beat them anyway. Now they've picked District 24, nearly $900,000 in attack ads on TV and cable, booked through primary day. Here's their own paperwork, and the one word it never says, crypto. And they don't just pick who to attack. They pick the congressman they want to buy. Kendrick Meat Jr. is on your ballot. His father sits on the Global Advisory Council at Coinbase, the operation's top donor this cycle. They ousted Al Green. Illinois wasn't for sale. Neither is District 24.
While Ron DeSantis chose fights over culture wars, I've stayed focused on what families in Miami-Dade County actually need. I'm Ashley Gant. And in the Florida House, I saw Ron DeSantis play politics with our kids' classrooms while the real problems go ignored. I proudly stood up to that agenda, fighting for our schools, our families, our freedom to live our lives. Now I'm ready to take that fight to the Florida Senate. Family first, community first. That's how I'll lead in the Senate.
Hello, everybody. I'm endorsing Oliver Gilbert because he has always delivered for us, raising wages, delivering paid sick leave, and passing a law to lower water rates.
I'm Oliver Gilbert, and I approve this message because from supporting the 5,000 Role Models program to standing up to Trump, I'm ready to carry on the legacy of Congresswoman Wilson.
Trust me, we need Oliver Gilbert in Congress.
For decades, Daphne Campbell has stood with the people of South Florida, listening and delivering results. A proud Democrat since 1994, registered nurse. She championed opportunities for underserved students to attend college, build brighter futures and stronger public schools. Senator Campbell will fight to fully fund our classrooms, pay teachers what they are worth, and stop politicians from playing politics with our kids' futures. When residents demanded action against unfair traffic fines, Daphne listened and successfully fought to remove red light traffic cameras in North Miami, Biscayne Park, Miami Shores, and El Portal. Daphne Campbell is also a victim of gun violence. She lost her son to gun violence and understands the pain too many Florida families live with. She believes we can protect the Second Amendment while keeping our children and communities safe. Her vision is clear: stronger public schools, better healthcare, affordable housing, safer neighborhoods, and more opportunities for every family. Experience, leadership, results. Vote Daphne Campbell. Your voice, your future. Our district, District 108. Punch number 102 on your ballot. Political ad paid and approved by Daphne D. Campbell, Democratic candidate for state representative, District 108.
Hi, I'm Katrina Wilson, and I am running for school board member, District 1. I've been a lifelong educator for more than 30 years, and I have served in Miami-Dade County Public Schools for almost 40 years. I think that I have a depth of knowledge about education and an experience. Education is the gateway to the future. I think it allows you to dream.
This was awesome. Thank you for tuning in.
Guys, without further ado, I would love to welcome to the show Miss Katrina Wilson.
Hey,
Hey.
hey, this how you doing?
How you doing? I look, you already know. Look, in a nice way, I'm like the Miami Wendy Williams at this point. And I
I
take
think
that. I
so.
take that. I take that. I said I'm trying to be a mix between Wendy Williams and Charlamagne, but also to still give y'all some Mark Lamont Hill and some Roland Martin and some Don Lemon energy, little Joyanne Reed sprinkled in there. Okay,
Hmm.
you got some fans joining in tonight. Oh, I love it, love it, love it. Hey there in the chat. How you doing tonight, Katrina? I know you was just at the polls, right? I just ran into you up there. I was like, hey, we gotta make this work, right? How you feeling?
Yes, I'm doing good. I'm tired though. When I say I am tired, I am tired. I'm tired. I'm all of that. It's been extremely hard for the last week and a half.
Hmm.
It's a lot of work because you got to get up before the crack of dawn to get set up for the day, and then it's when you get back home, you just got to come down from the day. So
Hmm.
it's been pretty tough, but it's been good. It's been good.
No, and look, my hats off to any candidate. Just even too, I feel like I've been closer to the election more than I have in past
Hmm.
years, and just seeing like y'all out there in that heat, y'all knocking on doors, y'all tootsie rolling and begging for your donations. Y'all are sometimes it get a little spicy at the voting thing. It's
Yes.
a lot. Oh, I don't think people understand the build up to an
Oh,
election. It is exhausting.
it is. It is. And like I always say, people think that, people who are elected, that it's a piece of cake, and it's not. It is a walk. It is a tough walk at times. You have a lot of merit that goes with it, because whenever you're able to serve, God gives you special
Mhm.
talents and special assignments that you get, and just, people can really, really appreciate the work that you do. But then there are times when it's a tremendous sacrifice, both personally and professionally, to be able to
Mm.
get the job done, and to get it done with, at the level that your constituents and number one, and I would say you can feel comfortable with yourself. There's nothing like being disappointed in yourself in terms of the work that you need to do, and it's a lot to get done within a short amount of time.
That
Short
part,
amount of time. Hmm.
especially your race, and we're gonna really get into that part about it too, because
Okay.
your race is a little unique. But before we even go there, for people here, I know you real popular. I know you real popular, and everybody know you. But for the people who are discovering you for the first time throughout District One, tell them a little bit about yourself and who you are when the cameras aren't rolling.
Ooh, well, I'm almost like the same person when the cameras are not rolling and when they rolling, because I can't get all dolled up for just camera. I try
Hmm.
to be as close to who I am all of the time, so that people are not surprised by anything that I might do or say. And when I can flow naturally with myself, I don't wear a mask. I mean, there are times when I have to put on one because I got some bags up under here that I gotta cover. But what you see is kind of like what you get. And I've been Trina all of my life. And the person that talks a lot, that laughs loud, that is very straightforward, and pretty much so. I don't BS when I tell the truth. And I'm very, very passionate about education and about children and about my community, about my family. Those things mean a lot to me. It means a lot to me, just like Jesus Christ. And so it's a faith that I believe in, and almost everything that I do in my life is connected with those things:
That's what's
family,
up.
community, church, God, and love.
Thank you for breaking that down. And just switching gears a little bit,
Hmm.
we all know you as one of the, most visible and popular, council people from Miami Gardens, and you left that office to run for this one. So share with people your personal, professional, or community experiences that have prepared you to serve the students, families, teachers, and staff of District 1.
Sure. You know, I have been a part of Miami-Dade County Public Schools since I left high school. I graduated from Carroll City in 1980,
I
and
was
I
gonna say,
was
tell that school,
well,
tell that
listen,
school,
listen. Don't let
tell
me
that
get started
school.
about the trees. Don't let me get started. Because I was a cheerleader and I was a
Okay.
captain of the squad when I was at Miami Carroll City. And during my time, we had gone to state, we had won state championships, our band was top notch. I mean, we thought that we were little fam you. You hear what I say?
Mm,
We thought you could not tell us nothing. And all of the I think the confidence and the experiences that we had from 19, I think 77 all the way to 1983 when we were going to state, that is still a part of many of us. You know,
mm,
that gave us so much confidence in ourselves. It gave us such a strong connection as a community. And being a part of schools, that have that kind of spirit is incredible. Miami
mhm.
Northwestern is one. Jackson is one. When you talk about Booker T. Washington and their alumni, people are excited about their experience when they've attended those schools, and they've had lifelong relationships, and it changed them, and it changed the trajectory of their lives. And Carol City did that for me. It did
Mm,
that for me. And so I am a product of this Carroll City, Miami Gardens community. My all of my education was here. Basically, I grew up a little bit in Liberty City. I went to Flora Heights in elementary school, but the rest of it, from Myrtle Grove to Parkway to Carroll City to Florida Memorial, all of my
wow.
education was right here in this place that we call home. And so it's been a wonderful experience to have lived with people who I've seen become multimillionaires, whether they were entertainers, football players, businessmen, and women, people who have done incredible things in the world, all came from this place. I'm going to say it again, that we call home. And
That
so
part.
I think we are just a wonderful destination, if you will. Of
Definitely.
yeah, Miami Gardens is the bomb.
I mean, I'm a little biased. I like you and crazy. I think when I've interviewed you before, like we've actually went to the same exact schools. I went to Myrtle Grove, I went to Parkway, I went to Carroll City. I graduated from Miami Northwestern, but that same theater pattern we definitely followed. And definitely want to just give you also to another, opportunity to talk about some of your experience in the classroom and
Okay,
other experiences that you have too that lead you up to, prepare you to serve District 1.
sure. Like when I left and I started to work for Miami-Dade County Public Schools, I was a clerk. I worked
Mm,
in a part-time first, and then I worked in the purchasing department, and I used to do all of the requisitions and different things like that to process them for purchasing all kinds of stuff. And I learned a lot about the consumer side of the school district. You would be amazed at how much we consume and how much money we spend just running schools, just running the building. So I learned a lot about that just as a purchasing clerk. And then I was in school at Florida Memorial. I got my degree in public administration. And one day I was downtown in the building that I was working in, and I saw my principal, and that was Mr. Anthony Pariso. And he said, "What are you doing down here?" And I said, "Well, I'm working and blah 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 blah." And I told him I had just graduated from Florida Memorial. And he said, "Well, why don't you come and teach? Why don't you come on down to Killian?" And I said, "Me? Teach? You got to be kidding." Well, I did. I went, I got my certification, and I went down to Killian and I started teaching social studies. And I will tell you, it was one of the most incredible times of my life. I was
really?
there. Oh man, oh man. Just I lived up north and I had never been down south really. And down south felt like a whole nother world to me. They had all of those uh, what do you call them things? Where you plant food,
Oh,
all of
farms.
the
It's a lot of
farms.
farms.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Yes,
had
it's
all of
very
these
rural
farms.
down there.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing to me to see that. And I said, "Is this in Florida?" This is in South Florida because I would go to Georgia in the summers with my grandparents, but I just had never really taken a trip down there. And going down there was amazing for me. And I just learned so much. And I was young. I was only like 21, 22 years old. And it was difficult because I was only a few years older than my kids that I was teaching. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to really mature, and I had to really understand how to manage dealing with kids that were bigger than you were, you know and then my principal assigned me to a lot of extracurricular activities. So I became the cheerleading sponsor there. I ran a club. I started the first Black History Month celebrations there. I wrote plays, and I mean, I just did a
Wow.
whole lot of things. And for 11 years, I was immersed into education. I was immersed into PTAs and advisory groups, and working with the community in Richmond Heights, which is where those kids were coming from that I was serving. And so I learned a lot about, just working within your school community to have an impact community wide. So when you are a teacher, you're not just teaching the subject that you are instructing, you're teaching the children who will then go back into the community and apply the things that you're teaching them. And it helps them as they grow into young adults. So my kids would go, I would have them ninth, 10th grade, and in a couple of years, they were coming back from college, and they come into the classroom and they wanted to share their experiences and how high school connected to college, whether they thought they were prepared adequately or not. Some would go into vocational training. So that is what turned me on and just got me excited about education and about teaching. It was about being at the high school level and really getting an opportunity to see how much you can really impact a child's life by how you shepherd them through the process of growing and learning and becoming a young adult.
Hmm. Thank you for breaking that down. And just to switch gears a little bit, on Halo News, we're all about like educating our audience on, how local government works. And so, can you explain to our audience what is the role or the job of a school board member?
I think the job of a school board member is to provide oversight into how the public dollars are being spent, to be sure that the planning and development of curriculum and those things that the future holds for the kids that we educate today. See, we're not just educating them in a right now kind of way. We're educating them based on what the future says they're going to need and be able to do when they leave us, because they have to be prepared for a world that they've got to live in, they've got to survive in, and they've got to be successful in. So, education, public education, is a critical factor in communities, even. If the schools are not good, the communities generally are not good. If the schools are strong, then the communities are generally strong. And when the communities are strong, then we start having a stronger country altogether.
Mm,
You
that
see?
part.
So public education is so important because it offers something um, that everybody needs, and that is a fair education. When you have inferior schools that are not creating uh, children or creating adults that are ready for the world, then we fail them.
Mm,
Because not being able to read or write or not having a skill, like what are our kids gonna do when they graduate high school? And believe it or not, a lot of them don't know.
mm, very true.
Hmm.
Just switching gears a little bit, District 1 has experienced years of strong academic performance under Dr. C. Gallen's leadership, with many schools earning A grades and the district benefiting from a number of student and community initiatives. And actually, no, you are the only candidate that he's endorsed. And when I was saying probably, I just don't know him to endorse a lot of candidates. So that in itself is really significant. If elected, what parts of Dr. Gallen's legacy would you work to preserve? And what changes or new priorities would you bring to the district?
I think that it's a no brainer that you should stay on a winning trajectory. right? And the goal is to ensure that we don't have 1 year of no F schools. The goal is to ensure that we have multiple years of A schools and that we improve the quality of service that we are offering to our constituents, and that is the children and the parents. And like, I don't know about you, but I love to go to Dunkin' Donuts in the morning, right? And I can go to like several different Dunkin' Donuts and have a different experience.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you say, how can you sell the same thing? And one I hate to go to, and the other one I love to go to, right? I believe that our schools ought to be as such that it doesn't matter which one you go to, that you are being served high quality service. From the moment you get out your car, all the way until you get into the office, the way your children are treated and made to feel, the delivery of the education, the communication about what the expectations are, it should be it should be bar none. And so my intention is to continue down the road that we are on because we're on a good road. And I am going to strengthen that by ensuring that our environment is conducive for learning, that the parents and the children love to come into our schools, that we have an environment we have high expectations for our kids, and that we get it done. We get it done. It's not a us against them. It's a we. When
Mm.
our children are educated, we all do better. All of us get a shot in the arm, and all of us have to take responsibility. Parents have a role, the child has a role, the teacher has a role, the administrators have a role, and the board has a role. And we have a role to make sure that everybody is doing what they need to do so that our kids are not left behind.
Mm. And Katrina, since you're, the one of the few people who've ever gotten a Dr. Gallen endorsement, can you talk to the significance of having the outgoing school board member to endorse you in this race? Can you speak to that and what that means to you?
Well, I've known Dr. Gallen a long time, and he's always been about excellence. I mean, when we came in and were principals together, I started a charter school, the first charter school in the state of Florida. And when I started, I had nothing. I barely had a building. And I've told people that I looked around and I couldn't find teachers. And I got on the phone and I called Dr. Gallen. I said, I don't have anybody. In order for me to open, I've got to have teachers. And he sent me teachers. I've never forgotten that because that was a lifesaver for me. And so I think that Dr. Gallen, in many, many ways, has been a lifesaver for people, you know, at Holmes Elementary, at Northwestern, even now, he's saving the lives. He's shifting the trajectory of where and how and what it is that can and cannot be done. And he doesn't talk it, he demonstrates it. It's just like when we get ready to tell our children to do the sounds, right? We could say that A makes the sound, but unless they say it themselves, then what? So part of what I learned from him, that in my first year of being a principal, is that you've got to surround yourself with people that have experiences that can help you to move through the same or similar experiences. And don't necessarily be afraid to say you need help. It's the same thing with the children. We tell them if you need something, raise your hand. But when it's us, we have some degree of shame and reluctance to say, I need some help in this area. Can you help me? So that was a major factor in me being successful at opening my school. But it was also a very, very important thing to note about him. And that is that he continues to be someone who has insight into things far beyond what is visible.
Mm.
And so, because it is that way, it requires a lot of studying and analyzing, and really, really coming up with what is the root of a problem that needs to be solved. And when you find someone like that, they have an analysis of things that gives you, a microscopic kind of view of how you need to address something. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is that that's how I know that continuing on this trajectory that these schools are on is very, very important, because I know that it's been analyzed. I know that it's been studied. I know that it's been researched, and I know that it's been piloted. And so if we see that we are getting what it is that we need to stay the course.
Mm, thank you.
Mm.
My next question is Miami-Dade County Public Schools, like many districts across the country, continues to face teacher shortages and challenges recruiting and retaining educators. What strategies would you support to attract and retain high quality teachers and school employees?
Well, one of the things that you've got to do is create an environment that people love to come to.
Hmm.
All right. And when you get up in the morning and you can go to work and you are not dreading it because of the place where you work, sometimes you don't want to go. No, none of us want to go to work every single day. But if once you get there, you're good, then that's the place where you want to be.
Hmm.
And so I think that schools right now have to have places where teachers want to be. Because when you teach more often than not, it's because you love it. The second part of it is just getting up and going every day and being able to earn enough to take care of your family and your families and your needs. And so that's what I think is important. I think we've got to get our teachers' salaries, and not just our teachers. I don't want to say that too. It's a lot of people in a school that make it successful.
Hmm.
Whether you're talking about the security guards, the custodians, your office personnel, your cafeteria personnel, all of those people are critical. And I learned that as a principal myself. When we were hit by a major hurricane and I was unable to open my building, when I arrived, my staff was already there on the grounds, looking at the wires, looking at the things that were down trees and broken windows that we were experiencing. And they were equally as important to the experience that we have in a school environment as are the teachers. I don't know. Have you ever been to a school that's filthy?
I have.
There we go. And you said, do I want my child here?
Hmm.
Because when you do, it's not filthy, because you don't have filth for people you love. And you
Hmm.
don't have filth when you love doing what you do.
Hmm.
So I think that the whole school community, our teachers, our custodians, everybody needs to earn a living wage that they can live with, that they can get by on, and still be able to be proud and go to work every day. So I'll be looking at those salaries, and I'll be trying to figure out how to bring equity in a way that I think that brings balance.
My next question, I actually would love to know your views on this as being one of you said the first principal of a charter school in Florida, was
Yes.
it? Wow. So school choice continues to be one of the biggest education debates in Florida. What are
Yeah.
your views on charter schools, private school vouchers, and school choice? How do
Yeah.
you believe these policies impact traditional public schools?
Yeah. Um, we were talking about the Dunkin' Donuts earlier, right?
Hmm.
Okay. Sometimes competitions make you do what?
Mm. Makes you competition breeds like makes you want to do better. It's like
That's what it does.
if you're doing better, it breeds
That's
kind of
right.
like innovation and
That's right.
excellence, right?
That right there now. And so, like for me, we could take a moment and say, what opportunities do we have to be better so that we are your choice? What can they do better than what the traditional public school can do? Those are the questions that I think that we have to start asking ourselves. And what are we doing that's making us not their first choice?
Mm.
And it ain't, it ain't pretty. But that's okay. We can deal with it not being pretty because we can make it pretty. We can fix the drawbacks, but we're going to have to be willing to hear the tough answers to these questions. Is it that people have decided they didn't want to be in a traditional school because they feel that they don't get service? What is it? What is our curriculum not rigorous enough? Is it not diverse enough? What is it? So we've got to look at it, and we're going to have to be willing to do some surveys. We're going to have to be willing to do some analysis so that we can begin to kind of cut away things that are stumbling blocks for us.
Mm, thank you. We've
Mhm.
heard concerns from educators and families that immigration enforcement and fear surrounding ICE have affected school attendance and enrollment in some communities. What impact, if any, do you believe this has had on Miami-Dade County Public Schools? And how should the district support students and families while remaining within its legal responsibilities?
Those are all tough questions. This is very new to me in terms of this whole stuff with immigration, and I have not had an opportunity to really study what the federal laws are demanding that we do as it relates to that. Um, I do know and feel that public education is a major brick or cornerstone of American society. And I don't know, and I don't remember in my studies in history where when we had people that came from other countries, whether or not they were denied an education.
Mm,
And so now that we are in a place where those families are afraid to send their kids to school because they are afraid that ICE will take them away, that's a problem, Houston.
hmm
Because it appears to me then that we are no longer the place of the country of the home and the free and the brave. We're no longer a refuge as we have touted for over 2 centuries that people
Yeah.
can come and find freedom.
Mm. So you're saying once you get more research, you're going to see what you can do as a school board member to, I guess, address this concern that parents have about, sending their kids to school and what legal parameters the school district has.
Yeah. See, like the school that I ran was an elementary school.
Okay.
And generally when the kids came in at pre-K and kindergarten, they didn't want their parent to leave them on the first day of school.
Mhm.
And so in order for that child to make the adjustment, you've got to love them. You got to make them feel safe. You've got to make them feel that this is a place that, and we had to be intentional about that. And so now, if you can imagine these babies coming in, and let me tell you, because I've thought about this and it breaks my heart. There were times when my parents would pull in and they would have 3 and 4 children in the car, you know and sometimes it was sisters that were living together, and one would have two and the other one would have one, and then they got the lady down the street, and they bringing these kids to school. Now can you imagine that ICE shows up to take those kids away,
Mhm.
and the other children are left trying to find them when it's time to go home?
Mhm.
And so it takes a lot when you're working with elementary school children to get them to trust you, to create an environment that's safe, that create an environment where they know they're cared about. And it's a tough situation. So I think that when we begin to look at ways in which, we are um, going to have to take care of these children and these families, we're going to have to really look at what the law allows and disallows and find ways around it to be able to care for these innocent children.
Thank you for sharing that. Here on Hello News, we're live, and so we take questions from the audience. And so this one
Okay.
came in from Mr. Eartatus. Sorry if I messed up your name. But his question is, can you speak to the stability of charter schools? That school is no longer around, and it is real concern of parents that many of these schools come into our neighborhoods and leave just as quickly. So I guess he wants you to talk to, the stability of charter schools.
Yeah. I think that that might be a real concern in some instances. See, you got to make sure that when any school, whether it's a charter school or any other type of school of choice, and even ourselves, that they are sustainable. We can't have kids, going into a school 1 year and 2 years, 3 years, they're gone and there's no accountability. You know, we've got to be able to set parameters that allow us to run effective schools with oversight. Now, charter schools are public schools. They're public
Mhm.
charter schools, and they have accountabilities and they have other kinds of things that the district provides oversight with, right?
Okay.
But I don't think that there should be any school that receives any public dollars that doesn't have any accountability for it.
Hmm.
So that's the gospel according to me.
Thank you for answering our live question. What's up
Mhm.
to the real Chief Hall in the chat? I'm always going to say something about Carroll City. So, my next question is about enrollment. How should the school board respond to lower enrollment, and what factors do you believe are contributing to these changes? I know we spoke about ICE and how that's affecting enrollment, but what other factors do you think are contributing to low enrollment, and what factors do you believe are contributing to these changes?
Well, some people are saying that the low enrollment is because people aren't having children anymore.
Mm,
They're not having a house full. I grew up with four, three other siblings, and today you find people with one, just with one child.
I
And
have
so
zero
they're,
kids. I'm 38.
yeah, a lot, and people are not interested in doing it. They're not interested in having the children, and they're not interested in having them early in life because
Mm,
they're pursuing different things. So we've got to look at, I think, what are the trends of this generation, and whether or not, we just got to find out what's going on here because our enrollments are dropping, and I understand that some of it has to do with birth rates.
mm. So and I'm always, I've had this conversation with different people offline. It's almost like, okay, so if my generation and younger aren't having kids at that rate, but what does that do to the community schools? Like, I see Myrtle Grove. I think, is it a K through 8 now? I don't even know if it's still, open. I know Parkway is no longer, a school that's operating. So is it like, do these schools now close? Like, I'm almost like, well, what does that mean for the district and all of these buildings that they built to accommodate these populations, but now it's just like the numbers aren't there. So like what happens to these buildings and these schools, you know?
I think people have ideas about what they want to do with those buildings. Some people would like to use some of the land to build housing, affordable housing for teachers and others. There are people who would like to share those facilities with other types of schools. There are many kinds of ideas out there and what ifs out there for the use of those schools. I think that what the district needs to do is commission its own study. It
Mm,
needs to commission a study about the use of its facilities and to determine whether or not where we're going to be in the next decade or so. Do we see a downward trend or an upward trend of people having more kids? And, you know, You know, I think it's something that we've really got to analyze and make a plan and get a strategy about what are some of the best options for us to utilize in order to deal with this issue of facilities because it's a real issue, but you need to delve deeply within it because I'm sure that when you do that, you're going to uncover some items that you hadn't foreseen. You know, the one thing I like about doing studies is that the experts will come to you and show you exactly what the problems are because they look at them through a microscope.
Hmm.
They really, really do an intense analysis that helps you to get a grasp of what's really happening, you know? And it's just like being in a house and all of a sudden you see that the wall looks like it's breaking. And you don't know whether or not you have a structural problem that's been caused by termites or whether it's something else. But you've got to get people out to take a look at it and be able to tell you what their analysis is of it. And then you can make some better decisions. So I don't really want to guess at, you know, what are some of the best things for us to do. But I do want to analyze all that's on the table and then figure it out because change is in the air.
And some in the comments are talking about affordability and, speaking about how expensive it is to leave to Miami. You have people moving out. Do you think that
Yeah.
contributes to it as well? Like the low enrollment?
Yeah, you know, because I know that people are, you know, we have a ballot that's coming out with property taxes, and there's a lot of debate about that in terms of how it's going to affect us. And when we take a look at children, I've heard a lot of my friends that are moving to Georgia,
Hmm.
you know, because of this whole property tax and the cost of living here in South Florida, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So people are making choices and decisions that are suiting them because economically they are not finding they're not finding it to be financially suitable for them anymore.
That's fair. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about, beyond academics, students are facing challenges related to mental health, school safety, absenteeism, and preparing for colleges careers. Which of these issues would be your top priority, and what specific actions would you take to address them?
The first one is absenteeism.
Mm.
You know, you can't help anybody that's not there. So the question is, where are the children? Where are they? And where's the accountability of getting them to school? You know, at the end of the day, accountability is a big old, because all of us, the parents, the schools, the teachers, the administrators, all of us have to be accountable for these children because they are our future. So we got to get on one accord to be able to deal with the issues that are there so that in some ways this can be made whole. Now, I'm going to talk about Dr. Gallen for a moment. It was tough for him to get into District 1 and pull back the rug
Mm.
and really, really say, what is going on here? And so over the years that he's been here, every time I pass a school, I notice something different about the schools. Grass cut, uh, buildings painted, um, the organization of how the kids are going in and going out, uh, updates on the performance annually, shifts in personnel in order to be able to put the right person in to deal with the body or the population. So it has come from analysis, which has led to strong decision making. And so if we are going to look at this, we can't be rash about it. We've got to be smart about how we look at what we're going to do to be able to solve these issues, because that's the only way that we're going to get another mistake.
Mm. Or Miss Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
part. That
Mm-hmm.
part. And speaking of, we mentioned Dr. Gallen, and I'm bringing this up because I know he had a financial literacy workshop that he did at Carroll City and Northwestern. And so I'm interested to know, should students have more access to financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and life skills? If so, what would that look like?
You know, I think that financial literacy ought to be mandated.
Mm.
I really do. Because one of the biggest issues that we do is that we waste our money on things that are inconsequential. It has no meaning. It's just lost. If we have principles that we can begin to teach our kids to, you can spend, but you got to save. It's almost like when I was growing up, my parents would tell me, oh, yeah, you can go out, but you got to go to church too. It was not
Mhm.
one without the other. And so it's about bringing balance. And it's also like when you look at getting married, a lot of people break up because they can't agree on how money's going to be spent. But if you start out at a young age understanding that I have a piggy bank and I gotta save some of my money and I gotta spend some of my money, then you're eliminating problems later in your life.
Mhm.
And that's what public education gives us the opportunity to do, is to tailor make and to make adjustments for the future so that our kids are coming up equipped. I was able to go to the school board and work because Carroll City had a vocational department. And so
Mm.
I learned how to type, do shorthand, work on the computers, so that by the time I got out of school, I had a skill set. I was employable. But I don't know that we're training our kids to be ready for the workplace when they graduate.
Mm. Thank you for breaking that down. Before I let you go, and this, you being a Miami Carroll City alum, this would actually be your one of your district schools if you're elected. I don't know if you saw, but the Bridget Washington McKinney went viral today for the first day of school. And
Mhm.
I personally loved how she was on it. She had the excitement and the energy, but she also was telling the kids if they did not have the uniform, they either need to get it together or they're gonna sit in CSI or be sent home or something like that. And so she got of course, Carroll City community, we rally behind her, like not too much on Bridget. And of course, but there are some parents and people watching that thought that she was being too harsh on the kids and that she should let them wear something that is explicitly not allowed clothing in Miami-Dade County schools. And so if elected, if that was one of your principles that you saw, going viral and for the same for what Bridget is doing, like what would be your thoughts on that? Like I'm curious to know what you thought about the backlash and even the feedback that Bridget got, especially she would be one of the principals if are elected to District 1.
Well, I would ask the question, what's wrong with the kids being in uniform?
Mm,
I need you to think about that. McDonald's has a uniform. The Dolphins have a uniform.
mhm,
So what is wrong with coming to school in your uniform?
mhm,
The other thing of it is that I like to see our kids in uniforms because you know what it reminds you of? That they are kids. And
oh,
I've seen some of the attire that some girls and boys wear that is not age appropriate. And so we need to be sure that when our kids go to school that they're dressed as children and that they're not too preoccupied with the wrong things because it will affect the instruction. Number two, when everybody comes to school in the same uniform, we don't get distracted on what somebody is wearing anymore. We can become more centered toward instruction and learning the kinds of things so that you have the tools when you leave school
mhm,
to do what you need to do. And so it's a discipline. So what she's teaching them is a discipline of how to put yourself together when you're going someplace like school.
mhm.
Like sometimes we go to church and people say, come as you are. No, no, don't come as you are.
Not too much like you are.
Okay, now, now you're talking. Because there are some places that you don't dress a certain way. And I
Mhm,
think that beginning to be able to teach our children that is a way that you give them a success strategy. Because when you take yourself seriously, others will too.
mm. And that's a good point. Andrea said the principal notified students and parents about the policy beforehand. I support her. Yeah. So it wasn't like she just sprung that on them. It's a policy.
Absolutely. You know,
Hmm.
like since Dr. McKinney has been there, what you have to do is look at how Miami Carroll City has transformed,
Hmm.
you know, and I see the kids and I talk to them, and they're it's not the same environment there. And you know, I'm gonna tell you this here, right? I'm gonna tell you this here. Like, have you seen some of the kids that, like, when I was at Killian, there were a lot of kids that used to go to Columbus, and they would go to a lot of private schools that were down there,
Hmm.
and they had uniforms to wear, and didn't nobody complain. And the people were paying to be in those schools, and they paid to wear the uniforms. And
Hmm.
so when you look at this school, there's no cost. All she's saying is come in the appropriate dress. And so I don't think that there's nothing wrong with it. It just is the beginning of being disciplined. It's the beginning of preparing yourself for the workplace. It's
That
the
part.
beginning of being able to articulate yourself in an interview by the way you walk in dressed.
Hmm. And I totally agree. And that's actually a point that I made on social. I was like, this is a lot of places you have to have a dress code or a uniform. And to me, high school, especially too for our kids, especially kids, black and brown kids, it's a low stakes place to be able to build that habit. Maybe you stumble, maybe it's a little, if you stumble a little bit, you get another chance. On some jobs, if you don't want to follow it, you suspend it, go home, and if you keep doing it, you could lose that job. So
It's
I
facts,
think that her being so strict about it is like teaching them that discipline, to your point, but also too is preparing them for the real world. If
for
some of them
sure.
want to go into the military, they want to be in the medical profession. Like all of these are jobs. Police, fire. Like they wear uniforms. You cannot go in there, and if
Mm-mm.
you can't have nothing out of place either. Because I think, I was watching a video and it's like some of the kids maybe had the hoodie that they weren't supposed to wear. It's like you can't adjust your uniform at your job. And to me, she's just helping them build that muscle for the workplace, especially too. These are high school kids who will be going out into the world in a couple of years. So definitely just wanted to know your thoughts on it. And I totally agree with what you're saying. And I see the chief community alumni all over the country was like, we stand with Bridget because one, her love for the community and the kids are there, and two, she's just teaching them something that all of us grown people already know. You gotta
That's a
abide by
fact.
rules. You gotta abide by rules. Like that's just what it
Well, you
is.
know what? I'll tell you this, right? Because I'm always looking, I'm always watching, I'm always checking it out. When Miami Carroll City, or when the Great Miami Northwestern, or when New Orleans steps out, they be tight work.
Hmm.
People turn around and watch. They turn around and look because of the way in which they are carrying themselves, the way that they take themselves seriously.
Hmm.
And so when we begin to groom our kids, when we begin to give them the keys to having a healthy self-esteem, first of all, with your appearance, and I'm not talking about expensive clothes and,
Hmm.
overly tight clothes or anything like that. I'm just talking about one simple thing: neat and clean.
Hmm.
It don't take you nothing but time to be neat and clean, to iron your uniform, to comb your hair, to brush your teeth, to groom yourself. If you want to be taken seriously in the workplace, if you want people to honor and respect you, it begins with you honoring and respecting yourself by the way you put yourself together when you go out. And again, it doesn't require a great deal of expense. It just requires your attention.
That part. Man, Katrina Wilson, this has been amazing, amazing. Before I let you go, tell the
Yes.
voters of District 1 why they should vote for you.
You should vote for me because I have the qualifications and the level of experience to provide the oversight necessary for the schools in District 1 to continue on the upward trajectory that they're currently on. I have worked from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade in schools. I was a principal for more than a decade. I taught for more than a decade as a social studies teacher at Miami Killian. I'm a 30-year, 40-year educator that has been in the school district, at the downtown area, worked down there for quite some time. I worked with the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence project when it was initially started. So I've had a lot of experience in Miami-Dade County Public Schools and doing things that had never been done before, being on the front line of initiatives and being on the front line of change all the way across. I've learned a lot and I want to share that, and I want to continue to see that District 1 moves in the way that it is moving. Anything short of that, it just wouldn't work for me. But I know that I know I just know what it needs to be done, and I plan to do it. I'm a hard worker, and very few things that I've ever tried have I not been successful at. So I have a pretty good record, and I'd like for them to trust me on that one.
Yes. Come on, y'all. Let's give Katrina some fire, some orange or black if you achieve in the chat. Let's give her some energy in the chat. Katrina, let people know how they can connect with you, your website, your social media. I don't know if they can still donate. I don't know what the deadlines are for that. If you still need volunteers, like just give them a last little one, two, a little shout out before
Okay,
we
all
go.
right. So you can reach me at Win with Wilson. It's www.winwithwilson. You can, if you would like to volunteer, if you would like to make a donation, feel free to go to my website. I'm always available, and you can always email me at k.wilson0313@gmail.com. That's k.wilson0313@gmail.com.
Love it. And I am putting your website link in the chat. I see some orange and black in the chat. There's definitely always going to be some Chiefs watching.
Yeah, they be on the scene.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much, Katrina. I understand you were out there, and the fact that you saw the value in coming on local Black-owned media. You always support High-Low News. You always make sure that we have access to your events at the city. I'm excited to see if you get elected, what that will look like, if you get to the school board. But just also to just thank you for just being a public person who supports local Black-owned media. Also, to people know the last couple of weeks we've been running your ad as well. And not that there's any preferential treatment at all, right? And we don't do pay for play. But to me, I just want people to understand the significance of someone who supports a local platform, right? And so I just want to give you your flowers and your kudos for that. If you're looking at the screen, winwithkatrinawilson.com is on there. Check her out. You can find her social media pages as well. And just thank you again, Katrina. God bless you, and may the best person win.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very, very much. I love you, and I love your show. I
Thank
love your
you.
show. Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes.
Love you too, girl. And look, I already know you talk. I already know you want to go lay down, kick your feet up, and get under them covers.
Ooh, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. But you know what? I'll tell you, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Mm,
For the children, for our future, it's worth it.
that
Yeah.
part.
Mhm.
Katrina Wilson, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the show.
It's my pleasure. And I love you, man. Okay? We'll talk.
Good
Okay.
night. Good night.
Good
Chief
night,
Fry.
everybody.
Hi, I'm Katrina Wilson, and I am running for school board member, District 1. I've been a lifelong educator for more than 30 years, and I have served in Miami-Dade County Public Schools for almost 40 years. I think that I have a depth of knowledge about education and an experience. Education is the gateway to the future. I think it allows you to dream.
While Ron DeSantis chose fights over culture wars, I've stayed focused on what families in Miami-Dade County actually need. I'm Ashley Gant. And in the Florida House, I saw Ron DeSantis play politics with our kids' classrooms while the real problems go ignored. I proudly stood up to that agenda, fighting for our schools, our families, our freedom to live our lives. Now I'm ready to take that fight to the Florida Senate. Family first, community first. That's how I'll lead in the Senate.
Hello, everybody. I'm endorsing Oliver Gilbert because he has always delivered for us, raising wages, delivering paid sick leave, and passing a law to lower water rates.
I'm Oliver Gilbert, and I approve this message because from supporting the 5,000 Role Models program to standing up to Trump, I'm ready to carry on the legacy of Congresswoman Wilson.
Trust me, we need Oliver Gilbert in Congress.
For decades, Daphne Campbell has stood with the people of South Florida, listening and delivering results. A proud Democrat since 1994, registered nurse. She championed opportunities for underserved students to attend college, build brighter futures, and stronger public schools. Senator Campbell will fight to fully fund our classrooms, pay teachers what they are worth, and stop politicians from playing politics with our kids' futures. When residents demanded action against unfair traffic fines, Daphne listened and successfully fought to remove red light traffic cameras in North Miami, Biscayne Park, Miami Shores, and El Portal. Daphne Campbell is also a victim of gun violence. She lost her son to gun violence and understands the pain too many Florida families live with. She believes we can protect the Second Amendment while keeping our children and communities safe. Her vision is clear: stronger public schools, better healthcare, affordable housing, safer neighborhoods, and more opportunities for every family. Experience, leadership, results. Vote Daphne Campbell. Your voice, your future. Our district, District 108. Punch number 102 on your ballot. Political ad paid and approved by Daphne D. Campbell, Democratic candidate for State Representative, District 108.
This week, tech billionaire Trump supporters started flooding Miami TV with attack ads. The target, Oliver Gilbert. Who's paying and what they're really buying is the part they'd rather you not see. Silicon Valley tech billionaires endorsed Donald Trump, put $12 million into his super PAC, and joined crypto giants Coinbase and Ripple in funding his inauguration. Trump signed their bill into law and personally pocketed over $1 billion from crypto last year alone. They bought Trump's Washington. Now they're shopping for Democrats. Their weapon is Fairshake, a $193 million crypto super PAC funded by Coinbase, Ripple, and the same tech billionaires. In Democratic primaries, it hides behind a friendlier name, Protect Progress. 97% of its money, straight from Fairshake. Here's their playbook. Pick a black Democratic primary and drown it in money. Houston, $6.5 million. Congressman Al Green's 20-year career, over. Chicago, nearly $10 million to stop Juliana Stratton. Illinois beat them anyway. Now they've picked District 24. Nearly $900,000 in attack ads on TV and cable, booked through primary day. Here's their own paperwork, and the one word it never says, crypto. And they don't just pick who to attack. They pick the congressman they want to buy. Kendrick Meat Jr. is on your ballot. His father sits on the Global Advisory Council at Coinbase, the operation's top donor this cycle. They ousted Al Green. Illinois wasn't for sale. Neither is District 24.
Plastic bags don't go in the recycling. It's Recycle Right, the game where we find out what's recyclable and what's garbage. Ready to play? Go. So many items we toss daily like cardboard, cans, cartons, glass, and plastic bottles can actually be recycled in our curbside collection program for a cleaner community. The rest is garbage, like your uncle's aim. When you recycle right, we all win. Take your victory lap.
Every drop has a purpose. It nurtures more than just our gardens. Protect what connects us. Conserve what sustains us. Because water is life.